with another video, and today's video is about the gay agenda. The gay agenda is being spread like wildfire, and I decided to do this topic because really over the past couple of years I have noticed an increase with storylines, whether it's on television or in movies. Now they're in cartoons. They have to include it in cartoons, and in most commercials they're going to have that as well. And the reason that I decided to do it now is because, you know, I have a family, I have children, and I believe, you know, if you're going to be what you want to be, do it, but don't try to force it on the masses. And don't try to just make it so normalized that it has to be everywhere. It doesn't. I mean, what you do behind closed doors, that is your business, but unfortunately, because there is an agenda, the agenda, once again, goes back to Satan. It goes back to the Bible, where the Antichrist, who will rise, and his kingdom will be based on anti-creation. Anti-creation, in a nutshell. Basically dealing with not wanting to have the man and the woman, not having the husband and the wife, or the mother and the father as the nucleus of the family. Now it's based on do as thou wilt. Do as thou wilt. Aleister Crowley, a Satanist who was also a pedophile and a murderer. And so there were several organizations that I was looking up as well, because, you know, today what surprises me, it really doesn't surprise me, but it just kind of catches me off guard sometimes, like, for example, the NAACP. The NAACP was founded in 1909. W.E.B. Du Bois he was a black man, but who was a co-founder. But most of the people who founded the NAACP were liberal white people, one of which was Mary White Covington in 1909. She, along with others in a Manhattan apartment in New York, founded the NAACP under the guise of helping black people to become not really equal. That wasn't the point, that wasn't the goal, but to, I guess, stop them from being as oppressed and attacked and marginalized as they were during that time, because this was after the I think the Springfield, Illinois riot, where black businesses were attacked. Several people died. A lot of businesses were burned down to the ground, and you know, by the KKK. The KKK went in, and they did not like the advancement or the growth that a lot of the black-owned businesses were having in that area, and they decided to take it upon themselves to go in and just, you know, tear it down and to ruin it. And so they decided to, Mary White Covington along with the others, decided to go ahead and create this organization to advance colored people. But you see, the word advancement does not always mean to improve the conditions of. It could mean just furthering an agenda, to further whatever that agenda was, which I will get back to in a minute. Just like the NAACP, we also have the Planned Parenthood, formed Margaret Sanger, I believe in 1916, where the purpose was not to help people plan for families, but it was to basically eliminate black people. This dealt with sterilization, it dealt with abortions. It is basically what it, has formed into today, which is to target poor blacks and tell them that they would better be off, or be better off, without bringing another child into the world. Or the other thing is to capitalize on them being uneducated and without a job. And that would include the school system, drugs in communities, taking away jobs. So taking away the opportunities, the growth opportunities, and setting them up for failure, whether it be putting them into the prison, industrial complex, or killing them through drugs, gangs, just all this violence. So then the other way would be, of course, to push homosexuality, because either way, there will be no reproduction going on. And if there is reproduction, then they will say, well, you need to go ahead and abort your children. Because what kind of a world are you bringing them into, and you have no opportunity, you have no resources to provide them with, so that's your best bet. So along with those two organizations that were formed and organized under the guise of helping blacks, we know that it really was to hurt and to destroy the black family unit. I'm not saying that only blacks are affected by the gay agenda, but that is definitely a big target group that they wanted to get first. Today, of course, we see it widespread. It's just the agenda is pushed to every culture, ethnicity, race, and there used to be a time when I was like, I knew that things were very strict in Asia, in Asian societies, and of course in African societies, but now it's just so wide and broad and mainstream that everyone is an advocate for it. But anyways, getting back to before I get on a tangent, but both of those organizations, the NAACP and Planned Parenthood, founded by liberals in New York, again, under the guise to help black people. It was to so-called further advance the efforts to eliminate any discrimination and racism, and just, but basically what it was doing, of course, was to make black people rely on the system, eliminate black people, have them to rely on a system that was the same oppressive system keeping them down. And W.E.B. Du Bois, as far as the NAACP was concerned, later found out that he was being used as a pawn, because they used him to get rid of Marcus Garvey, and ultimately what he did find out was that it was to advance just some blacks, some of the more prominent blacks, the wealthy blacks, and most of these people were deeply rooted in Freemasonry and, you know, had already signed or pledged their oaths to Freemasonry, and they had taken these oaths and basically promised to uphold whatever the agenda for blacks were. You know, they were the puppets, and they were being told what to do by the power elite in government, and just telling them, you know, what to say, and basically it was controlled opposition. It was just another form of controlled opposition. And that is why today we have people like Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson who can openly talk about how gay rights today are the exact same as the 1960s civil rights movement, when black people were being lynched for just being black. They're comparing the gay agenda with the civil rights movement of the 1960s. And Jesse Jackson, of course, he has the Rainbow Push Coalition. The Rainbow Push Coalition. Now, when he first had it was the Operation Push. I remember Operation Push, and then he what was it? I think it was, well, then of course the Rainbow Coalition, and then he basically brought them together. He brought both of those together under the guise, again, the goal was to demand social programs, voting rights, affirmative action for blacks. And then it expanded to all groups who had felt, you know, either marginalized or neglected by the system under President Reagan. And that is how it usually starts. They'll say, well, okay, blacks are not being treated fairly. They're being discriminated against. They're being marginalized. Their demands and their decrees are not being heard, and they're not being addressed. So we're going to go in and start this movement and say, yes, this is for you black people who are feeling this way. And we're going to address these socially by creating these programs that can help further progress, and to try to address these things so that we can have equality and fairness and equal opportunities and all those things, okay? That's how it's always presented. And then fast forward a few years later, well, you know, we are going to also include, you know, homosexuals, because they are being ostracized and they are being marginalized just like you. So now this is for them as well, the whole LGBT community, which ends up being the main focus on that movement. And okay, so then it goes back to, well, which is it? It's like, you know, blacks were being discriminated against just for being black, just for actually the color of their skin. They were being discriminated against. And then you're comparing that with a social preference and a sexual preference of who you choose to sleep with, okay, or who you say you choose to love. And then it's saying, you know, it's like that is the end all that be's all. And you're like, well, how is that equal? How is that the same? It's basically comparing apples to oranges, because a sexual preference, okay, you can compare it to, okay, heterosexuality is different from homosexuality. And you can say, well, you know, there are people who like to do all kinds of sexual things. You know, there are people who want to, you know, have sex with their own brothers and sisters. That's called incest. There are people who like to have sex with little children. They're called pedophiles, you know. So when you compare a race of people with, you know, who you like to sleep with, who you want to be with, who you're attracted to, it completely diverts the attention away, and the whole focus is shifted. So that is what they do. And the reason that you also know that it's like that, just look at our world. I mean, in the workplace, the main thing that they emphasize is diversity. They'll say diversity, well, it first came in as affirmative action. Affirmative action, once again, it came in to show that blacks were being overlooked for jobs and positions. Qualified blacks who were educated, you know, they were college educated. They had, some of them had master's degrees, some even higher PhDs, and they were still being overlooked because of the color of their skin. Okay, so then affirmative action was necessary to be ushered in to allow blacks who did not have that equal opportunity and access to be able to get into these jobs and not have to settle for being, you know, horseback maids or do something blue collar, when they could become doctors and lawyers and work in corporate America. So that is why it was created. Okay, sounds great, as always, right, in the beginning. But the whole point of affirmative action was really to usher in the whole diversity movement, which is what we see today. And diversity, of course, you're thinking, well, diversity just means that we are being diverse, that we are accepting all cultures and creeds and backgrounds and religions and, excuse me, and all people, no matter what their background, you know, the color of their skin, it's just being diverse. You know, we're the melting pot. We're supposed to be diverse. We have all of these people trying to coexist in one place, okay? But now, diversity does not mean what it meant 20 years ago. Diversity today means simply the LGBT. The LGBT community has to be, they have to be represented. They have to be represented and not overlooked, not marginalized, okay? And that's all it means now. It's basically, and which is why the whole anti-bullying campaign in schools have increased, because once again, it's a guise. They will usher it in under one pretense or one notion and sell it as one thing. It's basically the what is it? Bait and switch. It's the bait and switch. They bait you with this, and they'll say, "Oh, you see, these kids are out here. They're bullying people. Some kids have taken their own lives." And as serious as that is, that is not even what they care about. What they care about is, it's not just anybody. I mean, you know, everyone is bullied. I remember being bullied growing up. I mean, every person can probably think back to say, oh yeah, I remember those bullies. They used to pick on me. They used to, you know, try to beat me up and do this and that. But now it is truly zeroed in on just that LGBT. So, which means that you cannot say it is wrong to be gay or lesbian or bisexual or transgender. You cannot say that if you're born a male that you are a boy or a man-child. No, now the individual, if they feel in their hearts that they were or they are trapped in the wrong body, then now we all have to cater to that. And we have to call what formerly was he, she. And we have to allow them to express themselves and to be themselves and to be who they are, even though it goes against everything in biology that tells us the opposite thing. And so, you know, again, this is not to negate any bullying, because obviously it is a very serious matter. But the people who are running the show don't really care about everyone being bullied. It's just about the LGBT community who's being bullied. So they don't care about someone saying, oh, you're too skinny, or, you know, you're too fat, or you look at your skin, you're too black, you know, you're too white. They don't care about that. They care about, you know, oh, someone called that person who's gay a boy, even though he identifies as a girl. That's what that means today. Okay, so yeah, it goes back to just like the creation of the NAACP and Rainbow Push and other social agendas. So at the very heart of it, it really is to push or to protect the LGBT community. And not all of them, by the way. Okay, because many black people, poor black people who are gay, say, oh, I'm not being included in this whole agenda push, because they understand that it's really the rich white LGBT community that they're really addressing. Okay, because there can not be any way that they can be marginalized or made to feel like a minority. So they have to be at the forefront. So now even their sexual preference has to be advocated and condoned and pushed and endorsed and catered to. So it's really rich white LGBT community that they're really trying to push through and allow the world, or to basically force everyone else to cater to it. You know, because at the heart of it, we have some very perverted, twisted, sick people in high places doing all kinds of evils against humanity, against nature, because of their deviant sexual desires. So it goes back once again to Antichrist, where, you know, in Daniel 11, it says that the Antichrist will be a man who does not have any preference for women. And he will not have any love for women. In other words, he will love men. And so, of course, that has to already be set up and set in place where our minds are, because it used to be a time when, you know, you could watch sports or watch any show where, you know, if it was brought up, it was like, no way, man, you know, they would at least know to hide it or to kind of be, but now it's like, why should I hide it? I like to do this. I mean, do we feel the same way about people who like to commit incest or pedophilia? And, you know, you can say, well, no, it's not the same thing, but, you know, you are opening up a door that says, oh, yes, that's next. That's what's coming next. And don't forget about Beastiality. I mean, has anyone, I haven't seen the movie, but just the cartoon version, it was enough for me, Beauty and the Beast. I mean, you have to know what that means, what that represents. So it is definitely coming, but it's just, you want what you want because you want it. And once that door is open, then everyone else who wants what they want because they want it will then start to demand those same rights and having other kinds of parades. You know, they're already having parades for grown men who want to sleep with little boys and little girls. I forget what you call them, but, you know, except, well, I already know they're sick and twisted. But, you know, but at the end of the day, you know, we all have to just be honest. This is not hate speech. This is just the truth, and the truth does hurt. We must be honest and admit that most places that we work has a very strong political climate demanding that the homosexual agenda is met first. And any race, nationality, religious affiliation, creed, what have you, you know, all of that has to take a back seat. It has to take a back seat to that. Again, you know, and watch your shows on television. I mean, oh my goodness, if it's a popular show, which basically any show that's on TV that has a second season, okay, if you can get to that second season, you better have a strong gay storyline. And that is a demand, I'm sure. I mean, why? Because you can't watch TV without seeing it. There has to be, I mean, I'm sure that that is in the FCC guidelines now. You must have that gay agenda being pushed very strongly. Not just someone in the background. They have to be a prominent key player, you know, shown a lot. A lot. And then, of course, like I said before, with cartoons, my daughter was telling me about the Loud House, how one of the characters on there has, you know, two dads. And in commercials you see it, and it's just, oh yeah, you know, a woman talking, yeah, well, she is my wife after all, you know. I mean, and it's just, everything has gotten so perverted. I mean, the liquid plumber commercials, I'm sure y'all have seen that, where they show their cracks, their butt cracks. Before that, they had one talking about basically just perverted sexual, over-sexualizing food, sexualizing everything and anything. That is what they do. To just keep your minds, our minds, in the gutter 24 hours a day, with this whole agenda that they have going. What does it go back to? Yep, you guessed it, Freemasonry. Freemasonry actually has its roots and origins from the Knights Templar, or the Order of the Knights Templar. And if you've ever seen the symbol for the Knights Templar, you see the two men riding on a horse, on one horse. And that actually represents the homosexual act that they were doing. Okay, the Knights Templar were homosexuals. They were practicing homosexuals. They didn't hide it, but they did try to hide what they were doing by being connected with the Roman Catholic Church. But they did a lot of things under the guise of the Roman Catholic Church that were perverted and that were just very violent acts. They would go out and just slay whomever did not either convert to Roman Catholicism, or if they just wanted land, or if they wanted territories or whatever they wanted, they would just kill for it under the so-called protection of the Roman Catholic Church. But they were definitely hiding that as well, the whole sex act that they were doing, the perverted acts. And so when you see that symbol of the Knights Templar, you see the two men riding on the one horse, that is what that represents. That you guys have seen, and it's shown so much, I think you pronounce it, the Vitruvian man, with the one man standing behind the other man. One man's legs are, you know, spread, and the other has his third eye. So that is what a lot of that is steeped in, and it is originated in it, and that is pretty much why, or where they get that belief from. So that is why, you know, Shaq can show his Mason ring, flash that around, and wear dresses and wear wigs, and same thing with Charles Barkley and all of these basketball players and football players. You know, all these athletes can do these things because they are doing it. They're doing it. Most actors have all done it, are doing it. That's why it comes so easily for them to take on these roles, because they're doing it behind closed doors, and they don't even care about, you know, why hide it? Because this is now their world. It's Sodom and Gomorrah. It really is. It's just the ones who speak out against it probably can't get work. And if you're not on board in the workplace, then they may have to just find someone else who is on board. So it just all goes back to the deception. It goes back to Satan wanting to destroy God's creation. Two men cannot have a baby together, not biologically. Two women cannot produce a child together. But they want to show us these images that makes us mock, or it's not us mocking, it's the powers. It's the power elite. They like to mock God. They like to mock nature. They like to mock creation. And that is why you see these bearded women, these men who are in transition, giving birth to babies, because they want us to see this image of a so-called man giving birth to a baby. And it's really a woman, having a woman's womb, you know, the uterus, all that is still intact, but yet had their breasts removed. How are you going to nurse that baby? Or, no, the one person, I think they kept their breasts, I guess long enough for them, even though they had chest hairs growing and hairs on the back and a full beard. You know, it's just really, it's beyond. So once again, if you want to do that, that is your business. But to push this agenda, I mean, really think about it. It's basically saying, I don't care about my child, because my child will have two moms, or my child will have two dads, and they won't need, you know, we'll love that child enough for it not to matter that they have been deprived of the one, you know, of a true unit of a nuclear family, the mother and the father and the children. The father being the head, yes. So, and also what I wanted to bring up was back to the NAACP with Mary White Ovington, the fact that a lot of the movements were started by women who were feminists. And we know that even the feminist movement came about because, of course, women did not have the right to vote, and they were feeling like they were being marginalized, okay? And so a lot of them who resented the fact that men were doing this to them, they were actually, a lot of these women were just, they were lesbians who took the movement. They started it just saying, oh yeah, well, all women, you know, we all need to come together and pull together for our right to vote, you know, for suffrage. Once they had that, then they wanted to push it further. Well, let's take over the man's role. Let's, you know, so it wasn't about equality, it was about usurping authority over the man, you know. So that goes back to the Bible where, you know, after Eve sinned by disobeying, you know, then women became, you know, so the man became the head over the woman. So they were like, oh no, we want the women to be over the men. And we want to get to decide what we do with our bodies, and we want to get to decide, you know, who we love and how we love, and, you know, we don't need men. And a lot of the social agenda and engineering has been caused by feminists who basically want to get the men out of the homes. Most of the laws to get men incarcerated, put in prison, or for not paying child support, or you know, anything that you know, like the whole, just, you know, tell your caseworker what he's doing, and or just I don't need a man. I don't need. I just need my career. I just need my career. All of these tactics have been created and developed by feminists who really just wanted to get men out of the picture altogether. So that's another part of it, you know. So it goes, it's very, very deep. It's very deep as to what is really going on. But that is what I wanted to talk about today. And please, as always, I ask that you, leave your comments. Please share, subscribe, and I will see you the next time. God bless you.